9.com.
Yo! Let's do a radio show today, shall we? Welcome in to the Bureau, the Farm Bureau Insurance Studio. Farm Bureau, go! With the home team. They are your home team at Farm Bureau Insurance all across the great state of Mississippi. Welcome on in. No, I'm not wearing my hat. Funny, it's just, honestly, okay, for whatever reason, the lights in here feel a little bit brighter today. That's not a metaphor. It's a literal thing. I don't know how to explain it. They just seem brighter. So I'm not, the way I'm getting through it is I'm kind of keeping the bill of my cap dipped down. So if you can't see my eyes, it's just strictly a thing with the lights. But I happen to know, whether you've told me this or not, I happen to know that you're here to listen and not to look. You really would be fine if you're on the live stream even and you didn't have to see me. You'd be okay with that, okay? And so if you're on the radio, hey, you're the lucky ones, man. You don't have to look at me right now. But I am. I can confirm for everybody watching and listening. I am, ready for today. Now, I talked to Beaver just a minute ago, and he said, but are you really ready, Matt? He said, you know what today's show is probably going to be about, right? I said, yeah, I think I'm ready. So, I'm ready for today's show. And two, I am squarely in the Farm Bureau Insurance Studio. Farm Bureau Insurance, go! With the home team. They are your home team at Farm Bureau Insurance all across the great state of Mississippi. Your hometown heroes, that's your local Farm Bureau Insurance agents. Now, listen up. You can be a part of the show, and I hope you will be. If you're on the live stream, hey to you. If you're on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, formerly Twitter, now X, y'all can be a part of the show. Comment there. Drop me a comment on the live stream on the Murray West live thread. This hat, the aforementioned hat, is one of the hats I got from Murray West in New Albany, contract embroidery company. It's got that cool stamped and then sewn, like rubberized logo, the Natchez Trace Parkway logo on the front of my hat. So I'm sporting that one today. Thanks to Murray West for the hat. David is one of the first to comment here on the Murray West live thread. He's on YouTube watching. He said, Hail State, hello, Matt and Beaver, let's go, in all caps. He's ready. And then JS290 right out of the chutes put a name out here. And so this will get us started today, JS290. I thought, look, it's sort of the day after. We had the Zach Selman press conference yesterday. Zach Arnett, not the head coach at State anymore, that whole deal. Interim coach, here we go, 2 games left. Let's see how it goes. Southern Miss coming in there this week. But it didn't really, I will say that it seemed like among the fans and the conversations that I heard, the throwing out names and speculating on who's the next coach didn't really start to pick up steam until maybe this morning. And so we'll cover some of that today. This will be, when I say to you names that I'm hearing, I don't mean I'm hearing it from Zach Selman, who's going to make the hire, who told us yesterday, if you don't hear it from me, don't worry about it. But a list of names just that others might have talked about. You don't know sometimes where that stuff comes from. But ones that, anyway, to me are intriguing that you could go, okay, well, if this and if that, and those ifs line up, then it could be a fit. Well, who would that be and why? So let's talk about some of those. Well, he gets us started today, and his first comment is, Brian Johnson, Eagles defensive coordinator. And, it's not one that I actually had thought of myself, but who knows? I'm sure head coach money in the SEC is more than offensive coordinator money in the NFL. I'm sure that it is. And the thing about it is, Brian Johnson has coached before in Starkville, probably understands some things, but has never been a head coach. And he's certainly doing a heck of a job with the Eagles offense, but boy, does he ever more have some weapons too, but he's got, a history with college football that goes way back. And we'll discuss him and some others too coming up. So we will, we'll kind of take off. Now, let me tell you, yes, normal day. So the Country Pleasing text line is open and available and ready. So get them on in here. You can text the show on the Country Pleasing text line. Number to text, 885-3776. In fact, I'll put the number on the screen here for you if you're watching the live stream and you're like if you're on Twitter, you want to text us, there's a number scrolling across the bottom of the screen. 885-3776, 601 number. Another way to remember the text line is 885-ESPN. Also, call me on the Divini Equipment phone line, Divini Equipment in Madison and in Jackson, your Kubota dealer. They are the oldest Kubota dealer in the U.S. In fact, means they've been doing it better, longer than anyone else right here at home at Divini. So the number to call, 995-1059. Got that one on the screen for you also on the live stream. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, 995-1059. Give me a second. I'm coming in. Calls, comments, and texts all queued up and ready to go. You know who you are. But let me take a sip of hot coffee from High Point Roasters in New Albany. Hang on. In fact, it's so doggone hot, I can't even hardly drink it, which is saying something. Because let me tell you, I like it hot, hotter than most people. And I can't even drink that. See, this is something that I boiled on the stove to get it real hot before I put it in my thermos. It's still too hot right now, so we'll wait on that. All right, out of the chutes today on the Country Pleasing text line, we got the unnamed texter who said, before you ask, no Dan Mullen back at State. Okay, at the risk of going on a little diatribe here before I get into any more messages, I'll try to make it as brief as possible. But yesterday on the show, someone either called or texted, I can't remember, and brought up Dan Mullen, and my first reaction was no. No. N-A-W, underutilized word in the English language. No. Okay, but then I started thinking about some things. Well, it certainly is a different recruiting environment. It's really not even recruiting anymore. It's just straight up pay for play. Pool your money, see how much you got, and see what they'll take, come play for you, and see what it takes to keep them. I mean, that's everybody, the business they're in now. So you got that. That's different. He does coach good offenses. I don't know that he's ever coached a really bad one. He does develop some quarterbacks. He's put them in the NFL. Been out of it. And yes, okay, look, Dan's personality, you can say type A or whatever. Sometimes he can be a real jerk. Okay, but a lot of successful coaches can be quite often. And what we decided yesterday was that if you win a lot, nobody cares if you're a jerk. All right? If you lose a lot, nobody cares how nice you are. But there was something else I thought of. Oh, I know what it was. I don't have any idea. I have no earthly idea what the relationship is like between Dan Mullen and his former players who are in the NFL, but a bunch of his former players together, Dak and Fletcher Cox and Chris Jones and Slay and all these guys together, State's guys in the NFL are making, like, collectively as much money right now in the NFL as just about any other school's alums. And if you could, in this pay-for-play era, if Dan could talk those guys into slipping them a check every now and then to support, quote-unquote, NIL, maybe that'd be worth looking into. And if you're a coach out there and you're wanting a job, like, that might be a selling point. I don't know. All of that stuff is real icky speculation, but it did come up. I just thought I would mention it. Somebody says, if Colorado can hire Deion, Mississippi State should hire Smoot. Smoot for Heisman. Press conferences would be a lot of fun, wouldn't they? Nick texts the show and says, at this point, just let Will call the plays and run the air raid these last two games. They all know it by heart anyway. Well, Nick, listen, I want to tell you, understand this, that there's no such thing as, hey, this week, let's just go do this. No. In football, you have one option, and that is you go and you run what it is you've been practicing and working on for 7, 8, 9 months, going all the way back in the spring. There's no such thing as, in a week's time, flipping into sure, you may go out and the pass plays you've been working on, you go out and you run them more, but there's no such thing as, hey, they know this by heart, just go out and do it. Football is not that way. It ain't that way. It's not like, basketball going from man-to-man defense and playing zone defense. It's just a whole different deal. It is nowhere near that simple. In fact, if you think about it, Nick, one step deeper, one of the trademarks of the old Mike Leach air raid was that they repped their plays and ran their plays so much till they were sick of them almost, to the point that they couldn't screw it up if they wanted to. And that's one of the things that made it work. In a lot of ways, made it work. All right, let's go over to the phone line quickly, and we got a bunch of messages to get to, but let's get in here on the Davini Equipment phone. Jimmy, hanging on line one. What's up, Jimmy?
Hey, Matt, how you doing?
Good.
Hey, look, I had to ask you this question today on Tuesday. To me, to get a good coach, you got to have some money. You got to be a good recruiter. You got to have a good strength and conditioning coach or assistant coaches, which is very important. I thought I saw a good example of that with Ole Miss and Georgia this past week. And then you got to have a guy that's smart. You got to have a coach that knows the X's and the O's and how to fundamentally adapt to all the different strategies that are used by other SEC coaches and other great coaches out there. So, Matt, in your opinion, taking everything that you think makes what you need to become a coach, a good coach in the SEC, who is your choice? Who would be the person that could fulfill all those duties and responsibilities that need to be filled and provide Mississippi State with a competitive edge when facing Nick Saban, when facing Brian Kelly, when facing, all these other coaches that are out there? Who would be, and Kirby Smart, Lane Kiffin, who would be a good coach, in your opinion, to do all that?
Well, the right answer is either Nick Saban or Jackie Sherrill. That's the right answer. Jimmy, thank you for the call. No, okay, seriously, on a serious note. I mean, right? Then it becomes, okay, well, one's retired and the other one's just not coming. My point is, like, you can definitively answer some of those things about certain people, and it is a fine question, Jimmy, and you laid it out very well. But the issue is, no, you just don't know. And we can all have opinions, sure. And I'm about to go over a list of names that I wrote down here on this little note card here. Y'all can't see it but it's a whole list of names right there. And I'm about to go over that list of names. I haven't, Jimmy, gotten to a point where I feel like super duper strongly about one person. But I'm not an AD who is spending all day, every day monitoring this stuff year round as a just in case, which is what all ADs do. So let's just do it this way, and then I'm coming to some more of the comments. So, Jimmy, to answer your question fairly, I heard someone mention Jeff Lebby. I think there is either a relationship or a past there, some shape, form, fashion, between Jeff Lebby and Zach Selman. It goes back to their days at Oklahoma together. Lebby is at Oklahoma calling plays for their football team. He's offensive coordinator. He's former OC for Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss, so there's a little bit of a familiarity with the lay of the land in Mississippi, I guess. Someone who hasn't been a head coach, but, who knows? State may get into this process and realize that their best shot at doing what they want to do is to give someone their first head coaching job. I don't know that. But that's an interesting name to me for all those different reasons. Somebody mentioned earlier Brian Johnson, offensive coordinator, Eagles. It really comes down to an college or NFL thing. Like, if you want to be in the NFL or if you really are interested in trying out the college thing, I would think there's more money in being a college head coach than being an OC in the NFL. But Brian Johnson was a heck of a player on those Urban Meyer teams at Utah. He had a relationship with Dan Mullen. He coached at Houston for a little while, and then he coached at Mississippi State for Dan Mullen, coached quarterbacks OC. He moved around. Now he's in the NFL up there. Former player, understands college, coached in college, different places, coached some really good teams, coached some really good players, coached Dak Prescott at State for a while. Very highly thought of guy in football circles. I remember from talking to him in his time as an assistant at State, he's one of these very straightforward, non-emotional. He has a starting pitcher mentality in everything that he does, and that is he's a blank stare who in his head is constantly figuring out a way to beat you. And I think a lot of Brian Johnson, I think if he's open to it, call him. That's a good idea. If you are at State, if you're a decision maker, and one of the things that you are thinking about is someone who will not use it as a stepping stone, there's a couple ways to look at it, and it's okay really either way. If you're looking for somebody who is going to look at the State job as a stepping stone, and therefore, hey, I got to succeed now and quick and parlay this into that bigger job. Okay, fine. If that's the route you want to go and you think that's what's best for the program right now, go ahead, find that. Or if you would rather go ahead now and begin to talk to people who would not necessarily view it as a stepping stone type of job, but would view it as kind of what Mullen did, an 8-9 year project. What Coach Sherrill did, 10, 11, 12, 13 years, whatever it is. Then to me, Joe Judge is somebody who you have to interview. And I would think, Joe obviously played at State and family from here, deep ties. I think highly of Joe. I think we have seen clearly that being the head coach of the New York Giants, number one, it ain't an easy job. Tell me the one person for whom it has been easy. It's been a while. 20 years? Is that what it is? And I would think that if if you're on a sideline with Belichick for more than a decade and you've been a head coach for the New York Giants, if you want an interview at Mississippi State, your alma mater, you can get one. And Joe's someone who would have the ability to put a really fine staff together, but would also be familiar with the geography and would be looking at it as a long-term thing. And if that's what you decide as a decision maker at State, that appeals to you, that's somebody I think you got to talk to. Some other names that I wondered about, you hear Coach Fritz at Tulane, and he has done an excellent job there, in more ways than one. And, absolutely. I just think, again, we're all looking at it on the surface, and you go, okay, if a guy like Willie Fritz, if he and his agent are open to it, then talk to him, period. End of story. Start the conversation, see where it goes. I'll tell you another one that was interesting to me was Lashley at SMU. Now, I am so unfamiliar with how they have looked this year. In fact, as we sit here and talk about SMU, I would have to look them up to see what their record is and that sort of thing. But my recollection was that they were heavily involved and have been heavily involved in the portal thing. Like they've transferred in a bunch of guys at SMU over the last couple of years and have made it work. And you're starting to see that might be the quickest fix at a lot of places is somebody who can absolutely immediately day one get in the portal and work it and improve their roster just like that. Because you're going to have people leave when you have a change, right? And, I think Casey Woods is on his staff. Casey's dad, Sparky, used to be a head coach in the SEC, coached at Mississippi State. I knew Casey when he was a young guy, and he's grown up in coaching. Casey's got a big-time future ahead of him, one of those up-and-comers. And Casey spent some time on the staff at Missouri. So there's some ties there that may make a little sense on the Rhett Lashley thing. Other than that, I don't know. Another name that no one is mentioning that I'm just curious about, I don't know if there is any connection or relationship in the past between like a Zach Selman and this guy. But, Charles Huff was on the staff at Mississippi State for at least 1 year, maybe two. I can't, but maybe 1 year under Moorhead. He was there quickly, and then I think he went to Alabama. And the next thing you know, he landed the head coaching job at Marshall. I think Charles is in his third year at Marshall. I don't know if they're necessarily having a great year this year. They're kind of battling to get to bowl eligibility. They're close maybe within a win or two, but they won 9 games last year at Marshall, and you probably heard his name and stuff. And Charles is one of those guys that, he's been a head coach, so he knows how to run a football team. He's coached in the SEC. He's been in Alabama with Saban. He was at State. There's some familiarity on different levels, and he has been a head coach. And when he had things going last year at Marshall in a 9-win season, he's a guy that he's really engaging. I mean, when he talks, He just draws you in. He's got sort of that natural personality, and I just wonder if that's not something you weigh as well, because we're in a get attention world now in college athletics. It's no longer keep your mouth shut, put your nose down, and just show up on Saturday. I mean, those guys have to get out there and make waves and be media friendly and all that kind of stuff too. So, again, that's sort of throwing some names out there. I don't know. I know the guy at Kansas has done a good job. I just don't know anything about him, other than, okay, he's done a good job at Kansas. The place is really hard to win. You just never know. So let me know what I hit on, what I missed on. White Denzel on the Country Pleasing text line says, G.J. Kinney we trust. In G.J. Kinney we trust. I already has on the maroon, yeah, because he's where? At Texas State? Isn't that the school where he's at? Where they went and brought in about 40-something transfers in the portal. Young guy, been exciting to watch. Unnamed texter says Lance Leopold at Kansas. Am I saying that right? Is it Leopold or Leopold or Leipold? How do you say it? Somebody send me a pronunciation. I know. I should have already looked it up. Sorry. Unnamed texter says, Matt, is Kevin Barbay still the offensive coordinator at Mississippi State? Well, yes. I'm certain that he is. Selman said yesterday the rest of the staff is staying in place and going to finish out the last 2 games. He said, if so, what good did it do to fire Arnett? Barbay's offense is ineffective at best. Yeah, I don't know. Puzzled Dog is who texts that, and I'm going to get into, when we come back, really simply kind of why you make a decision in the middle of the year like that. We'll do that next. Just getting started. Stick around. Y'all have heard me talk about Murray West and MurrayWest.com. They made the hat that I'm wearing. Got the Natchez Trace logo on it. I've told you a little bit about what they are. Contract embroidery company here in Mississippi. Started back in 1996, family owned. They do a phenomenal job, and I got to go visit their place up in New Albany. Let me show you a little bit about it. When I say they do quality stuff, they really do. And so custom apparel, team stuff, I mean, really and truly, just about every high school in the state is sending their embroidered, team gear, jackets, shirts, hats, stuff. Baseball teams, football teams, they're sending it to the folks at Murray West in New Albany. You go to their website, MurrayWest.com, you go to the bottom, you can kind of see some of the Prairie Wildlife, Ole Miss Athletics, Gentile, others that they work with. Can't recommend them enough. If you need your logo printed, embroidered, sewn on to anything, custom apparel and other stuff, make sure you go there. Murray West, you can find them online. MurrayWest.com. That's MURRY West.com.
I'm Eddie Holcomb with Washington County Farm Bureau Insurance.
I'm Scott Rainwater with Farm Bureau Insurance here in Washington County.
I'm Blake Policini with Washington County Farm Bureau.
I'm Brian Street with Farm Bureau Insurance in Washington County, and we are your home team.
I think you know what time it is. It's time to eat. Country pleasing, jalapeno and cheddar, green onion. And no, it's not a grill, see that? But the fire is just about burnt down enough where it's time to put some of this on there. And the only decision when it comes to country pleasing sausage is which flavor, jalapeno and cheddar or maybe green onion. Both.
Break me off a piece of that.
Look at that. What that is. That's real green onion. Like that monkey who set his tail on a railroad track. It won't be long now. Country Pleasing sausage, these flavors, and many, many others. Get them online at countrypleasing.com. At a grocery store near you, pretty much anywhere in the Southeast, walk up in there and say, Country Pleasing, please. They'll know what you're talking about.
I was born and raised in Greenville. I've always called Greenville home. This is where I, was raised, went to high school, graduated high school, worked all my life here leading up to going to college. So even when I moved from Greenville, I always told people, they asked me where you're from, I always said I'm from Greenville. I have mother, father, brother, niece, aunt, all live here in Greenville. So this is home. This is where I, live, and I've just always called it home. Small town, I feel like I could walk in any place tomorrow and know 2 to 3 people in there. It's small town. Someone's on the side of the road broken down. Hey, you need a boost, flat tire, you need help changing it. That's just kind of, what I love about this area. The blues and the food and everything that comes along with the Mississippi Delta that I love. I tell people all the time, my business cards have my cell phone number on them for a reason. Insurance doesn't happen from 8 to 5. When you need me, it's going to be after 5. It hardly ever happens where you have a wreck, get pulled over, need an insurance card, win.
All right, back with you. I'm Matt in the Bureau, the Farm Bureau Insurance Studio. Let me hit some of the comments here on the Murray West live thread. Go to murraywest.com, by the way, and you can see kind of who they are, where they are. You can get quotes online. If you need your logo embroidered on anything, shirts, hats, custom apparel, but even things you don't necessarily wear, trust me, that's where you want to go. Scroll to the bottom of their website at murraywest.com. You'll see some of the folks, Gentile, Prairie Wildlife, Ole Miss Athletics, others that they deal with that they, I was in there one day and they were putting that SIP logo on all kinds of red and blue stuff, sending it back to Ole Miss. I was in there one day and, again, it's an embroidery company. They're in New Albany, but they had a whole bunch of stuff that they were putting that big B, like the Boston Red Sox B, but it was for Brandon High School. High schools all over the state. So trust me, check them out. The kind of folks you want to do business with. Family owned, right there at murraywest.com. That's MURRY. Let's see. Marty said on YouTube, I would be okay with Mullen, but not my first choice. He's good at his job with ESPN, so I doubt he would come anyway. He's got plenty of money. He doesn't have that buyout money, and he's working at ESPN. But I'll tell you, Dan's really good on television. He seems sort of made for it. David said, if Selman picks Mullen, then I'll accept it. He said his tail is on the line with this one. It's a funny way to put it. Jimmy comments on the Murray West live thread, said he's fascinated with Jeff Traylor at UTSA. Lewis says, bring back the king. That'd be Jackie Sherrill and his big old stick. Somebody, Kevin and them told him he looked like Moses walking around with that big stick. His hair turning white and stuff. Jimmy said, for the people on the radio, Matt just held up Mike Leach's play calling card. You know what, Jimmy? That's about the size of his play calling card. It's a note card that I cut it in half, and then I use half of it at a time. And I jotted down some names right there. I jotted down Levy, Lashley, Fritz, Charles Huff, Brian Johnson, and Joe Judge. And see, told you I'd go off my notes. On Facebook, Rick tuned in. He says, we need to first look at the task at hand, which is a win over Southern Miss. I live in Hattiesburg, and believe me, they are coming to Starkville to beat State. What is your take? Well, Rick, I'll tell you this. I will tell you very matter-of-factly my take. This is Southern Miss's Super Bowl, and it was the minute it got on the schedule, and it's been that way the last few times it was on the schedule. It's their Super Bowl, period. End of story. Okay, I expect them to play well. Matter-of-factly, they were talking about this game, before the season began. And I know that they've had their bumps in the road this year in different times, but they're scratching and clawing, okay? Will Hall is a winner. And, boy, they've run him down and talked about him and tweeted about him, all that kind of stuff. But listen to me, Will Hall is a winner. He is. He is a fighter, a scratcher, a clawer, which is hard to say, but he is. And they made a few changes and got somebody else calling plays and put a new quarterback in there. And all of a sudden, they started winning a few games, right? And they beat somebody and scored some points, 30-something one week and win an overtime game and all this. And I'm just telling you, Rick, State better have energy, first of all, and be excited to play. Like Mike Leach used to say, be the most excited to play. And State has to have a good day on offense. We have seen that if Will Rogers and Woody Marks don't play, that offense is capable of having a bad enough day to lose this game. So it ain't in the books. Should State win it? Yes. Is it a chalk it up? Absolutely not. All right. Let's see. Stephen, coming to the phones in just a second. Stephen on the Country Pleasing text line said, I noticed a lot of former players wanting Mullen, even some that he walked out on. He said, I know this situation has made a boring and bad season interesting at the end. Well, it certainly has. Boring and bad, and now all of a sudden it's interesting. Listen, I mean, here's the thing about it. Yes, Dan's personality kind of is what it is, but the fact is the places that he's been in when he was at State, players had fun playing for him because, one, he pushed them to the edge all the time. Strength and conditioning, just push them right to the edge. Push in terms of what they could execute and how well they could do it. He just pushed them right to the edge, and then he put them in a position they actually had a chance to win, which is fun. Players ultimately want to be pushed, and they want to have a chance to win. And so we can say what we want about Dan's personality, but he did that. All right, over to the phone line, the Divinity Equipment phone line. Trey on line 1. What's up, Trey?
Hey, Matt. I mean, as bad as it is, if State beats Southern Miss, the Egg Bowl, it's always a coin flip no matter who's 1-10 or 10-1. So they could still go to a bowl, and people are going to take them 6-16. But I've been thinking a lot about the new coach, and everyone's throwing out all these names, and I've even heard Dion. But someone who actually has had success that I think would be different, which is what State needs, is Kingsbury, and I think he's either he's a quarterback coach or maybe he's just an analyst. I think once they let him go, NFL, I think he's at USC. What do you think about that, man? You think that'd be something that'll work out? I think I'm missing.
Okay, thanks, Trey. And so you said USC. You think he's at USC? I kind of lost track of where he was and what he's doing. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot there. I mean, there is. And, I am one who, Trey, I find myself less and less just falling on one side of the line or the other, totally based on what someone did at a previous job. I really do, because the game is so much different in terms of like building a roster now and retaining a roster now and all those kinds of things. I would say, I'll just give you as honest answer as I can give you, Trey, for what it's worth. If I was the athletics director and it's on my shoulders, if Cliff Kingsbury would talk to me and be halfway interested, I would talk to him about it. I absolutely would be open to that. Because I do believe, I'm not saying this is right. I'm not saying I even like it. I'm just recognizing that this is the reality we live in. That in the pay-for-play and transfer portal era that we are in right now, getting attention plays. It's not the most important thing, no. It's not the determining factor on winning, and it's not the determining factor at all times on getting players, but it plays. It does factor. You would have to consider that, because I don't know in this era how important it actually practically is to have deep recruiting roots in one part of the country or another. I really don't know. And when you're dealing with portal turnover every year anyway, any coach, regardless of who it is, how old he is, or where he coached or played, any coach at Mississippi State is going to have to do really two things every year, and that is recruit players from Texas and hit the transfer portal every year to find former players at other schools from Texas. So I would be open to it. And when young, especially when young guys, I mean, look at Lane Kiffin. You know, there are times when they are young, when they go through stuff or whatever, where whoever gave them those jobs when they were really young didn't necessarily get them at the best time in their life. But look at him now at Ole Miss. There's no question from a maturity and a growth and a personality and an outlook and a demeanor, every decision-making, everything, it's clear that Ole Miss has gotten Lane Kiffin at the right time. You didn't want to hire him when Tennessee did, but you sure did when Ole Miss did. Joe texts the show on the Country Pleasing text line. Says, here are some texts coming up. I'm going to go fast here. He said, if he were to come back and commit to MSU long-term, go get Mullen. Somebody mentioned Willie Fritz. BB from Brandon said, Matt, one coach nobody's even mentioned, I think easily do well at State, is Notre Dame head coach Marcus Freeman. He's making $5 million a year at Notre Dame. Leipold is how you pronounce it. I want to thank y'all for sending in the pronunciation. J-Rock says, have you mentioned Jamie Chadwell from Liberty? I have not. I don't know that much about him, really. Was he the guy at Coastal before getting the Liberty job? Am I thinking? Tracy mentioned Kenny from Texas State. So we've all got people we like based on something. Somebody said Bob Stoops. That ain't happening. Jason in Flagstaff, Arizona, he says, wait, real football isn't a video game and the team can run anything on the little screen at the push of a button? No. Yeah, you can only run what you've been practicing for months for the most part, or what you maybe at least install based on what you already know how to do during the week of a ball game. But you can't flip it and go back and run last year's offense. Football doesn't happen that way. Man, we're neck deep in it again today. Texts, more than I can get to, coming to y'all next. Comments on the live stream. Watson and Robert and Brad and Jonathan and everybody coming to you. So y'all stick around here in the Bureau, the Farm Bureau Insurance Studio. Stay with me.
I was born and raised in Greenville. I've always called Greenville home. This is where I, was raised, went to high school, graduated high school, worked all my life here leading up to going to college. So even when I moved from Greenville, I always told people, they asked me where you're from, I always said I'm from Greenville. I have mother, father, brother, niece, aunt, all live here in Greenville. So this is home. This is where I, live, and I've just always called it home. Small town, I feel like I could walk in any place tomorrow and know 2 to 3 people in there. It's small town. Someone's on the side of the road broken down. Hey, you need a boost, flat tire, you need help changing it. That's just kind of, what I love about this area. The blues and the food and everything that comes along with the Mississippi Delta that I love. I tell people all the time, my business cards have my cell phone number on them for a reason. Insurance doesn't happen from 8 to 5. when you need me, it's going to be after 5. It hardly ever happens where you have a wreck, get pulled over, need an insurance card, wind blows, shingles off your roof. All these things happen, and it's typically after 5. And so the ability for someone to call me, get in contact with me, text me, ask me a question, and that's what it's about to me, is helping the people that we serve, is taking care of people and them knowing that they can count on me whenever they need me. I am Brian Street with Farm Bureau Insurance in Washington County, and we are your home team.
Y'all have heard me talk about Murray West and MurrayWest.com. They made the hat that I'm wearing. Got the Natchez Trace logo on it. I've told you a little bit about what they are. Contract embroidery company here in Mississippi. Started back in 1996, family owned. They do a phenomenal job, and I got to go visit their place up in New Albany. Let me show you a little bit about it. I say they do quality stuff. They really do. And so custom apparel, team stuff, really and truly, just about every high school in the state is sending their embroidered, team gear, jackets, shirts, hats, stuff. Baseball teams, football teams, they're sending it to the folks at Murray West in New Albany. You go to their website, MurrayWest.com, you go to the bottom, you can kind of see some of the Prairie Wildlife, Ole Miss Athletics, Gentile, others that they work with. Can't recommend them enough. If you need your logo printed, embroidered, sewn on to anything, custom apparel and other stuff, make sure you go there. Murray West, you can find them online. MurrayWest.com. That's MU. Let's see what we can keep getting into here in the Bureau on this Tuesday, the Farm Bureau Insurance Studio. Thomas says on Facebook, on the Murray West live thread, he says he gets excited about the Troy coach. So what's his name? Sumrall? Yeah. Joseph makes it clear what he's looking forward to regardless of what's going on. He said, I can tell you this is on Facebook. He said, I hope we whip Ole Misses in Stark Vegas. Yeah, look, it's that never changes, does it? We want to whip them, they want to whip us. Will is in on YouTube. Good morning to you, Will, or good afternoon, as it were. He says, yeah, Jamie Chadwell built Coastal into a great football team and currently has Liberty undefeated. The internet experts are saying that he has a big buyout for what that's worth. He may do it, Will. Again, I don't know. I hadn't researched it at all. Don't know anything about him. I know the name, know a little bit about it, like you say, but Liberty is a school that has lots of resources, plenty of money, plenty of it, that sort of thing. Brom mentions on Facebook on the Murray West live thread, Matt, what do you think about Joe Judge, coach at the Patriots when Brady was there? I believe he's back in New England now. He is. As a matter of fact, you watch a Patriots game, you see Bill Belichick talking to somebody on the sideline. It's usually Joe, and he's done a heck of a job with their special teams units over the years before and after the stint with the New York Giants as their head coach. And really, you can see that, maybe it was at one time and it cycles. It's the NFL, so it cycles around. But being a head coach of the New York Giants is not necessarily an easy job. Others have certainly proven that as well. But I think a lot of Joe. What I said earlier, Brom, is I'll say this again to reiterate it. It kind of depends on what your approach is. If the people that are doing the hiring, if they feel like what's best for the program right now over the next 2 to 3 years is to have a young up-and-comer, never been a head coach, who will try to light the woods on fire for 2 or 3 years and use it as a stepping stone because then he wants to go to some, top shelf school, top program. He wants to bounce it on into LSU or to Ohio State or something. Well, if that's what you're looking for, okay, go ahead. But if you make a decision that it would be optimal, if you could find that next head coach who's going to settle in, who's not going to look at it as a stepping stone job, who wants to be there for a long time. Well, that's kind of the way I think Joe Judge, that's a category that he falls in. Strong family ties to the school, to the area, to the state, knows it. So it'd be getting at it a little bit of a different angle. But I think a lot of Joe, and I know he would do a good job. And then it comes down to, like for any of them, staff, approach, offense, philosophy, all those kinds of things, building a roster, which, how in the world do you judge a lot of these coaches out there right now on how they're going to be able to build your roster over the next 4 or 5 years when you don't even know what's going to be allowed over the next 4 or 5 years? It's a hard decision. And it's always a toss-up. You've seen it over and over and over again at places and coaches that look like an absolute home run. They win the press conference like nothing you've ever seen, and 2 years later, it's dead in the water. The motor will not crank. All right. Text messages, country please, and text line. Unnamed texter says, I really like head coach J.G. Kinney, Texas State. Young, 35 years old, an offensive guru. He's worked under some great coaches. Wouldn't cost an arm and a leg. He's good at the portal, too. This is from Jim. Thanks, Jim. Thanks for sending that. Yeah, young, 35. The portal deal, it's very important for everybody. It is. It's so unfortunate, but it is. And the result is that talk to high school coaches. It's pretty unbelievable when you talk to high school coaches, the numbers of college level, recruit type players out there in high school football all over the place that aren't really getting phone calls and interest like they used to. They're not even getting scholarship offers like they used to because so many schools are just trying to solve every roster issue in the portal right now. But that's what I've heard. I haven't studied it, but I've heard that Kenny at Texas State, that they turned over a bunch of guys in the portal this year and got them better really quickly. We were talking about Mullen earlier, and somebody sent me the gif of Cousin Eddie out there, emptying the RV out on the street, holding up, and he says, Merry Christmas, in his bathrobe. And he says, you serious, Clark? Millwood. What's up, Millwood? He says, in all seriousness, when would you say is a deadline to name a new coach? There's no such deadline as, by this date. Listen, the reality, Millwood, the reality deadline is as soon as possible. You don't rush it. You're not flying around in a hurry, risking making bad choices, but the understanding that there is no other priority right now. Period. End of story. It's got to happen today. And if it can't happen today, it's got to happen tomorrow. And if it can't happen tomorrow, it's got to happen. The deadline is now. Waiting and time spent, bad way to do business. In that business, and then go for everything. State grad 98 texts the show. He's not in on Joe Judge. He said no. Rebel Tiger Dog texts the show and says, 2 names that I'd like to hear discussed, Chris Peterson and Gary Patterson. Please get someone hired quickly to hit the ground running. I'll be honest with you. I get the impression that some of those guys from that era, like Chris Peterson, Boise State, Washington, Gary Patterson, TCU, they got out of it and are fine to be out of it because they're not dealing with all this pay for play stuff. They're not dealing with it. Don't want to. Now, I think Patterson might be in a fundraising role for TCU or something. It seems like I read that, but still, that's a lot different from a pressure standpoint. Res Dog texts the show and says, what? Cliff Kingsbury says he couldn't win with Mahomes, and I don't mean Brittany. Come on, man. Yep. Well, yeah. I don't know. Couldn't win with Mahomes. And there was a whole bunch of people who didn't think Mahomes was all that good. As a Kansas City Chiefs fan, I'm glad they passed him up in the draft. Nothing's ever quite as clear, black and white as it seems. And ResDog, like I said, I mean, every situation is different. I think State, while you've got to be responsible on everything, whether it's, recruiting and developing linemen and playing defense and all this kind of stuff, all those things matter. But I think State you've got to do something different, whether it's train different or lift different, or you got to be special and different at something. And I just think not every year that goes by, every month that goes by, it's more and more obvious you must be able to throw the ball, and you must be good at that. Aquatic Waves, Texas Show, Glenn Schumann from Georgia. Would he leave Georgia? He's a defensive coordinator. I mean, I don't have a clue. I don't know anything about it. Brad, Texas Show, says, question, why is the narrative that Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin, or Mississippi State / whoever the coach is can't recruit big players and win national championships? He says, we got to quit pushing this mindset. He says, if you have the money and resources, then it shouldn't be hard. Listen, Brad, I'm going to tell you, I'm reading this, and I'm going to be fair to you, but I'm going to tear into a lot of what you're saying here. He says, Lane Kiffin evidently loved the way Oxford looked, etc. Once we get to see the campus, it's hard to say no. If everything else is there, State can do the same if the fans will pony up. Listen, Brad, I would answer you with some questions. Are you saying, number one, you said if you have the money and the resources, then it shouldn't be hard. So you're saying then that for Texas A&M, it's not hard. So it is hard, even with unreal money and resources. Listen, Brad, think about Texas A&M. The most money and resources, even with the most money and resources, guess what it is? It is hard. It shines a great big spotlight on what Saban has done at Alabama because, yes, they got money and resources, but as hard as it is, look what he's done. It's incredible. Okay, so it is hard. Secondly, it ain't all about money and resources. Okay, but every day that goes by, it's increasingly a little more about it, right? Pay for play, that whole thing. But here's what I'm saying. You said you got to quit pushing the narrative that Ole Miss and Kiffin or State and whoever can't recruit big players and win national championships. Well, okay, you can. In the last 10 years, you were ranked 1 and 2. You can put yourself in the position, but are you going to finish it out? Look what Georgia has become in the last 10 years. You say pony up. Pony up what? Pony up how much? Over how many years to get 24 5-star players on your roster like Georgia? It's got to be about something else. I mean, surely it is. More on that. Stick around.
Today's game from Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
Time was their breakfasts were gloomy. They just didn't feel right, and they didn't know a delicious cereal could help their sad plight. So they tried this and tried that, but irregularity kept coming back all the same. For as often the case, lack of bulk in their diet was actually to blame. Once at the grocer's, the wife was so drooping and sagging that a neighbor said, "Get on Kellogg's All-Bran wagon. Why, All-Bran has a flavor that's scrumptious to eat. So rich and nut-like, makes breakfast a treat. And of course, Kellogg's All-Bran can help you each day to youthful regularity, the dietary way." "Well, it might do some good," said the wife with a sigh. "Guess I'll get some All-Bran and give it a try." Soon, breakfasts at her house were happy and bright, for delicious Kellogg's All-Bran set their day off right. Yes, All-Bran supplies all the bulk in your diet, you see, that you may need for youthful regularity. And no half-brand cereal possibly can provide this help as surely as Kellogg's All-Bran. A delicious, non-habit-forming aid to your diet. You're sure to like All-Bran. Just buy it and try it.
Get on the Kellogg's All-Bran wagon with the best bran in the land. The cereal that tastes bran, the cereal that's All-Bran, a breakfast treat that can't be beat. Be a regular guy and climb aboard the All-Bran wagon. Eat Kellogg's All-Bran.
What is the secret of this enchanted book? What wonders are hidden within its pages? What magical spell does it cast on all who read it? What is the secret of the never-ending story?
But that's impossible!
You will enter a world where a young boy's imagination becomes a vivid reality. The world of Atreyu and Artax, the Rockbiter, and a good and kind gnome. A world that is vast and eternal, treacherous and dazzling, unforgettable and free. For anyone who's ever made a wish, believed in a fantasy, or had a dream, this is the never-ending story.
It's a new thing, it's a fun thing, it's a swing wing.
It's a what?
It's a swing wing, it's a wing wing. A brand new transcript fun thing.
It's a what?
It's a swing wing. A fun thing. And now it's your favorite store thing.
It's a what?
Mazda announces some great news for truck buyers. Right now, you can beat the already outstanding value of the $67.95 Mazda SE5. Introducing Mazda SE5 Plus 5. $625 worth of extra features at no extra charge from Mazda. You get a bed liner, mud guards, sliding rear window, floor mats, and AM/FM stereo. That's a $625 value at no extra charge. But hurry, offer ends soon.
I'm Eddie Holcomb with Washington County Farm Bureau Insurance.
I'm Scott Rainwater with Farm Bureau Insurance here in Washington County.
I'm Blake Policini with Washington County Farm Bureau.
I am Brian Street with Farm Bureau Insurance in Washington County, and we are your home team.
Y'all have heard me talk about Murray West and murraywest.com. They made the hat that I'm wearing. Got the Natchez Trace logo on it. I've told you a little bit about what they are. Contract embroidery company here in Mississippi. Started back in 1996, family owned. They do a phenomenal job, and I got to go visit their place up in New Albany. Let me show you a little bit about it. When I say they do quality stuff, they really do. And so custom apparel, team stuff, I mean, really and truly, just about every high school in the state is sending their embroidered, team gear, jackets, shirts, hats, stuff. Baseball teams, football teams, they're sending it to the folks at Murray West in New Albany. You go to their website, murraywest.com, you go to the bottom, you can kind of see some of the Prairie Wildlife, Ole Miss Athletics, Gentile, others that they work with. Can't recommend them enough. If you need
9.com.
All right, I'm gonna try to read this quickly and start hour 2 with it because Brad's got somewhere to go. He's heading there, Brad. So I'm trying to catch you here before you get in. I know you got work to do, but he said it comes down to how bad do you want to win. He says maybe I should have said Lane, with his abilities, unlike Jimbo, can sell Ole Miss as he has done, but better with more resources. He says, what does Georgia and Alabama have to offer campus-wise that Ole Miss and State don't have? Georgia hasn't had the success Bama has had. They finally won their second national championship 41 years after the first one, so it can be built like Kirby did. Hard work, yes. And then he said he was having to go into a patient's home. He might not get to hear this. So hopefully you're getting to hear it, Brad. I appreciate your text. You see, here's what I think. I think the whole narrative of campus and like what you're offering there in terms of your roster and football roster, it's way overrated. It always has been. I mean, it's not a matter of, I'm not debating who has a beautiful campus and who doesn't, right? Everything is beautiful in its own way. Ray Stevens. Okay, but go to Georgia's campus. It's awesome. Go to Ole Miss's campus. It's gorgeous. Go to State's campus. You would not recognize it. If you last went to State's campus 10 years ago, you ain't going to recognize it. Certain places. That's all. But guys looking at football now, big time, the campus. I mean, we used to hear stuff about the Grove being a draw and it helped them recruit players. Are you seriously? Do you really believe that? It might recruit you some students, and it certainly is awesome for tailgating and all that. But in terms of putting a guy on your roster, doesn't have one thing to do with it. Never did. That's a homespun tale. So the campus stuff has nothing to do with it. And then you go, Georgia hasn't had the success that Bama has had. Well, no, but they got started later. You can say they're on the same path. They certainly are having the same success, even more of it, in stacking their roster than they had at Alabama, which is a scary thought for everybody. Well, but now they have 3 national championships, not 2. So, Brad, the deal is, sure, I'm with you when you talk about our school, State and Ole Miss. You know, is it possible? Well, yeah. I mean, it's kind of possible if the stars align just right. But listen, man. Yes, it's about more than just the dollars and the cents. But in the current structure and the way that rosters are built, the way that rosters are built, you can't go out and catch their roster. Now, to your point, it takes the right coach and the right system. And a lucky bounce here or there, right? And you stay healthy and maybe the other guys don't, some of those things. But we're living in an era right now where I hate to tell you, but your roster ain't going to match theirs. It's got to come some other way. And you go, well, we can fundraise. Well, yeah, you can do really well, and you can raise more than some. You ain't raising more than them. Georgia? Nope. Alabama? Texas A&M? No, sir. Raise your money till you're blue in the face. And to a certain threshold, it is just simply the cost of doing business. We get that. But, I mean, it ain't the same, man. It is not the same. That's what you're up against. And, you know, for somebody like me and you who we love college football, we love the sport, it's a good thing it's as entertaining as it is. And it's a good thing that, you know, there's only one Georgia on your schedule, Or in this case, for you this year, there's a Georgia and Alabama. That's just 2 games. And it's a good thing there's some other games in your schedule with teams like you where you have something to go watch. Because what have we learned? Listen, I'm telling you, I agree with the positive attitude. We can do it. You don't take no for an answer. You strive. You do everything you can to have a better team next year, and you did this year, do it over and over and over again. You'll look up someday and you'll have something. You make a run at somebody. I 100% agree with that. But to say that the chips aren't totally stacked against you would be ignoring the reality of it. And that's just the reality of it. All right. We are underway. Hour 2 of the show. Off and running with you. Get on in here. If you're on the live stream, hey to you. YouTube, Facebook, even if you're on X, Twitter, you can text the show, but you can comment on the Murray West live thread. Jimmy said on YouTube on the Murray West live thread, Athens is an outstanding college town. Chuck says, college football players ain't coming to your school because you have pretty trees. No, that's right. They certainly aren't. All right, over to the phone line. Davini Equipment phone line. Davini Equipment, Madison and in Jackson. Your Kubota dealer. On line 1, LSU 10, patiently waiting. Thanks for calling, LSU 10. What's up?
Yeah, I just had a comment. If you are a 4 or a 5-star player and you're being recruited by Alabama, Ole Miss, or Mississippi State, and your objective is to get to the next level, why would you go to a school that historically doesn't win 9 games every year? You're not. You're going somewhere that you're going to have superstars around you, and you're going to do the best you can. I think that's why the 2 Mississippi schools don't compete year in, year out now. Ole Miss has got a good team this year. Mm-hmm. When's the last time they won 10 games? When's the last time Mississippi State won 10 games? That's my case.
Thanks for the call, LSU 10. Hey, have you killed another deer since I talked to you last time?
No, but I'm going to get after them this weekend.
There you go. And it's getting cooler. I wonder if it's going to rain this weekend.
I went over to Louisiana and sat this morning. I saw 2 small bucks, about 11 does, and I got out of the woods at 7:30.
How about that? Of course, I drove through Louisiana on my way to College Station this past weekend. I was in Vicksburg. I drove from Vicksburg to College Station, Texas. And you talk about some pretty places to hunt. It looks just right through there. All that area, Shreveport, Monroe. Of course, that's closer to the Mississippi line. You get over there towards Texas. There's some beautiful country over there. Thanks for calling, LSU 10. Good to hear from you.
You bet.
And, again, I couldn't get over the speed limit. You got into Texas, and, there's some of those towns, Kennard, Texas, and Crockett, Texas. You're out in the middle of nowhere. And small towns, nice small towns. I'll tell you this, you go through a couple of those in Texas, like Crockett, Texas, looked just like Houston, Mississippi. Had a town square with a courthouse in the middle, just like Houston, Mississippi. It could have been Houston. That was Crockett, Texas. But anyway, they've got 2-lane roads out there those 2-lane roads in Mississippi are always 55 miles an hour, and out there they're 75. 75 miles an hour. All right, let's see. Text line. Country pleasing text line. Denzel said someone forgot to turn off the location of his tweet. Okay. Is that real, Denzel? Come on now. Tell the truth and tell me that's real. All right, let me describe for y'all what White Denzel just sent me on the Country Pleasing text line. Country Pleasing sausage on grocery store shelves all around the Southeast. It's the best. And I had jalapeno and cheddar for breakfast. Jamie Chadwell, the head coach at Liberty, This is a screenshot of one of his tweets. It was dated yesterday. And on Twitter, like, it'll show, your account, and he is Coach Chadwell, and then it says, see everyone on Wednesday, and he was retweeting something about the Liberty Flame Sports Network for the Liberty football show with Coach Jamie Chadwell, presented by whatever, Wednesday night, 7 to 8 at the Mellow Mushroom, and all. He's like, he retweets and says, see everybody on Wednesday. And in this screenshot, how it'll show you how many retweets on Twitter, how many likes, but it does show you the time that it was tweeted, the date, and in this case, before it shows you how many views it has, it says he had his location services turned on his phone. Like on my iPhone from C Spire, you go into settings, you hit location services, and that's turning on your GPS. And his GPS on the tweet says Starkville, Mississippi. Now, come on now. Tell the truth that ain't Photoshop. See, and I don't know how to take it. Denzel sent it to me, and then he shows me this, and you can clearly see where it looks like an actual tweet that says Starkville, Mississippi. And Denzel has a message down here. It says someone forgot to turn off the location of his tweet with a bunch of laughing emojis. Well, the laughing emojis are throwing me off, Denzel, because now I don't know if it's a joke or not. And I'll be honest, somebody could easily Photoshop that. I could absolutely Photoshop that. Now, my buddy Matt texts me, and see, he's smarter than the rest of us. And he said that he could have actually been in town in Starkville recruiting, right? Because Starkville High School's got kids who are being recruited. They got a quarterback and receiver and all this kind of stuff. And, yeah, I mean, so he could have been in there recruiting. But according to this screenshot, Denzel, I want to know your opinion. Do you think it was real, or are you thinking that this is Photoshop? I could Photoshop and make it look real. If we maybe we ought to do that. Really, like I'm gonna find a Jim Harbaugh tweet and I'm gonna Photoshop that line where it says he's in Starkville, Mississippi on there, right? Just for the heck of it. Right? All right, look. So here's our response. Denzel said it's 100% real. All right, so that means there's only one of two possibilities. It was, if it's real, there's only one of two possibilities. Because it was yesterday at 2:49 p.m. Either he's in Starkville recruiting a Starkville player, or y'all didn't start tracking airplanes fast enough, and he beat you to it. Went and had himself a conversation. Anyway, here we go. State Grad 98 says, I've seen the same tweet. Looks legit to me. Somebody else said it's got to be Photoshopped because none of his other tweets have locations on it. Anthony from Tupelo texts the show. He says, Belichick said that Joe Judge is the best evaluator of talent he's ever worked with. Anthony says that would be a great place. That would be great for a place like State. Says, I don't know him at all. This could be media gibberish, but from what I've heard about the way he talks to players, would not go over well with this generation of soft kids. Anthony from Tupelo says the first JMF, and I know what that is in reference to. He gave out he would lose a ton of kids. Yeah, I went through some of those JMFs for sure. Okay, somebody on the Murray West live thread, Gancakes on the Murray West live thread on YouTube is telling me now that tweet now says from Earth. So do they change it? Well, look, how do you do that? I need to know that. Somebody make a YouTube video of iPhone tips and tell me how to do that. How
it's also now in a different time zone too.
So, but Beaver, so how do you go in there and manually change that though after it's already been out there?
Now that I don't know. That I don't know, but White Denzel sent. So it says 249 from Starkville, Mississippi. And then I'll go to Jamie Chadwell's Twitter and look, and it says 149 an hour earlier, and it is indeed changed to Earth. But I don't know how to change that. I don't do a lot of the X work.
Beaver, you are somebody who is inquisitive, and you're neither naive, overly trusting, nor pessimistic and overly non-trusting. You're inquisitive. How does this land on you? What are you thinking about all this? What do you think about this tweet stuff and location thing?
You mean like if I think this particular location is legit?
Yeah.
I don't buy it.
Okay.
I think White Denzel is trying to pull some trickery.
Yeah, here you go. He didn't buy it. Beaver's gut is telling him something's fishy. This doesn't pass the smell test. See, I'm going into location services right now. My iPhone 12 Pro Max from C Spire. I click location services. It obviously gives me then the option to turn it on if I want to. I don't keep my GPS on. I save the battery on mine most of the time. Location alerts, and then share my location. Share my location. That's different. Location alerts, yes, and then you just turn it on. But see, I don't have in my location services, I don't have an option to change anything. So see, like if I turn my GPS on, I start tweeting, it'll say, 1:15 p.m. Tupelo, Mississippi, or whatever it says. But I'm not seeing a way to go in here and change that. I mean, see, so just that little bit of research is starting to send me down the path of not trusting it either. Okay, let's go a little further with this. Investigative radio showing happening right now. Denzel says the person who screenshotted it could have been in the Eastern time zone, which they're about an hour ahead. But I don't get that, Denzel. So you're saying, wait a minute. You're saying that what I see on the time, date, and location on someone's tweet is based on where I am reading it? So if I'm in the Eastern time zone, it would say 3:49 and not 2:49? But the location, why would the location be any different? That don't make any sense. Are y'all feeling like I've spent way too much time on this already? Because I'm starting to feel that way. Yeah, see the same. Okay, Denzel. So that's what Denzel's telling me, that it can change based on where you're viewing it from. Steven shares the same screenshot of the same tweet with the same thing circled. And he says that it has changed. It now says from Earth, not from Starkville. Miko with an update on the Country Pleasing text line says location will only share where you are when you're in that location. Well, I mean, if it says Earth, well, we probably could have guessed that one. And Jason in Flagstaff says, man, I don't believe anything I see on social media anymore, and only about an eighth of what the real media reports. Well, what real media are you talking about, Jason? Let's don't get into that, okay? Let's don't get into which media is real media. Am I real? All right. Now, last layer on this, and pretty soon the music's going to start. Here, so listen up, Denzel, White Denzel, Beaver, Matt, Miko, all of us who we've been discussing this. Jamie Chadwell, Coach Liberty, name on the list, tweets yesterday something about Liberty. It says in his location services it was 2:49 p.m. yesterday, November the 13th, in Starkville, Mississippi. Okay. All right. And then it's changed to Earth. We don't know how you do that. Joshua on the Murray West live thread says that when your location services is on, your tweets and stuff that have gone out will say where it is. He says you turn it off, those same tweets then say Earth. That's what he's saying. But Joshua, here's the one thing I can't get over. How does it know when to change it? The thing's already been tweeted, X'd, it's out there. Now, we have screenshots, so it's not like I'm looking at it live, but people are saying, okay, if I go now to that same tweet, then it's changed. You're telling me that Twitter X automatically changes what it says about a past tweet that already showed the location earlier, but it changes that when he turns a location off on his phone afterwards, not posthumously, but afterwards. You see what I'm saying? Because that's a whole different level of stuff. See, Gancakes is saying that it is dynamic, meaning a little bit ago it'll say Matt was in Tupelo. Right now it'd say if I have it on, it's in Tupelo. Even though I'd already sent it out, if in an hour from now I turn off location services, it won't say Tupelo anymore. That's what he's saying. So we're down to two possibilities. He was either there talking about the job or recruiting high school players, or both. One or the other. Huh. As they used to say on Laugh-In. Very interesting. Yeah, stick around.
I'm Eddie Holcomb with Washington County Farm Bureau Insurance.
I'm Scott Rainwater with Farm Bureau Insurance here in Washington County.
I'm Blake Policini with Washington County Farm Bureau.
I'm Brian Street with Farm Bureau Insurance in Washington County, and we are your home team.
I think you know what time it is. It's time to eat. Country pleasing, jalapeno and cheddar, green onion. And no, it's not a grill, see that? But the fire is just about burnt down enough where it's time to put some of this on there. And the only decision when it comes to country pleasing sausage is which flavor, jalapeno and cheddar or maybe green onion. Both.
Break me off a piece of that.
Look at that. You know what that is? That's real green onion. Like that monkey who set his tail on a railroad track. It won't be long now. Country Pleasing sausage, these flavors, and many, many others. Get them online at countrypleasing.com. At a grocery store near you, pretty much anywhere in the Southeast. Walk up in there and say, Country Pleasing, please. They'll know what you're talking about.
Grew up on a family farm out past Leland, just born and raised here in the Mississippi Delta. Never really thought about moving out. You know, it's where my roots are. Our family's a big sports family. It was 4 boys and 1 girl, and all 4 of us boys went and played ball at Delta Community College. My dad, he's always been honestly a role model of mine. He's farmed his whole life. We attend St. James Catholic Church in Leland, where we went to church my whole life, and then now continuing my family, me and my wife and my 3 kids. Being a Christian is everything for me and my family. Being born and raised here in this area, there's just something about this area. I mean, when you pull into it, you don't see a whole lot, but being born and raised here and the farm families and just the people that grew up here, the people that you see here, you see in the grocery store, you go to church with, small town community, you're gonna run into people that you know. It puts a smile on your face knowing that you know the people in your area, in your community. Get to know them as friends and now bring them in to my office here, and creating that relationship, extending it on, getting them as insureds, as customers of mine, who I call friend. I'm Blake Policini with Washington County Farm Bureau, and we are the home team.
Y'all heard me talk about Murray West and MurrayWest.com. They made the hat that I'm wearing. Got the Natchez Trace logo on it. I've told you a little bit about what they are. Contract embroidery company here in Mississippi. Started back in 1996, family owned. They do a phenomenal job, and I got to go visit their place up in New Albany. Let me show you a little bit about it. I say they do quality stuff. They really do. And so custom apparel, team stuff, I mean, really and truly, just about every high school in the state is sending their embroidered, team gear, jackets, shirts, hats, stuff. Baseball teams, football teams, they're sending it to the folks at Murray West in New Albany. You go to their website, MurrayWest.com, you go to the bottom, you can kind of see some of the Prairie Wildlife, Ole Miss Athletics, Gentile, others that they work with. Can't recommend them enough.
59.com.
All right, listen. The technology is kind of amazing, but you got to control it a little bit, right? Or it's going to show everybody where you are and what you're doing. I'm laughing because we have this tweet from yesterday from the head football coach at Liberty, Jamie Chadwell. The tweet from yesterday afternoon, almost 24 hours ago, that said he was in Starkville. His location was in Starkville. I went through this whole 10-minute exercise a bit ago, doing the whole, I'm too dumb to figure this out thing. And then when you figure it out, you're like, why didn't I figure this out quicker? Trying to figure out if it's real or Photoshop. Turns out it's real. All right, look, it's real. The guy was in Starkville. Now, here's the other thing I'm laughing about is why am I so shocked or not even I'm acting like shocked or surprised, like, wow, when State's got a football opening, and they're obviously going to interview football coaches. Do you see what I'm saying? They fired a coach. They got to hire a coach, which means interviews have to take place. And here we are acting like shocked that interviews might be taking place. We have to recognize the possibility that maybe Jamie Chadwell was in Starkville recruiting Starkville high school players. I don't know what the recruiting windows are. Sorry, I don't know. I don't keep up with it. So that's my fault. I'll own that. But he was there. Or his phone was. One or the other. Because what happened during the commercial break was this tweet that went out yesterday afternoon. It showed the time and the location. That went out yesterday afternoon. Well, today it has changed. It no longer says that. Now, the same tweet, if you go to it, it says Earth. Well, that's because they're telling me that location services is a dynamic deal. It will change that information. Even on stuff you sent out yesterday, it'll change the location if you turn it off. Turn it back on, it's going to show. Right? That's what I understand. Now he's got it off. It's dynamic. It works. Okay, which is pretty cool. Pretty impressive. But the next thing that happened during the break was Maddie tweeted me and showed that yesterday it indeed on his tweet was showing location of Starkville because Liberty fans were commenting under that tweet saying, what are you doing in Starkville? Starkville, huh? For example, what he sent me was something called Liberty Sports Talk. Says, are you announcing your departure? This was yesterday on the, under the comments of that tweet. Another one said, you're in Starkville, huh? You're not leaving us already, are you? So even those Liberty fans were seeing yesterday that the location said Starkville. So it turns out that is legit. So either he or his phone was there. So there you go. So how do y'all feel about that? Jason in Flagstaff, Arizona, Texas show. And he says, I asked him what he was talking about. He said, real media. He said, any of it. Both sides. Neither. Mainstream. And none of it. He didn't listen to or believe any of it. MSU 1980 says, Matt, I missed who you were talking about to do with the location of the tweet, which coach you're talking about. Chadwell, Liberty head coach. State Grad 98 says, from the research I just did, Liberty fans commented on the Starkville location from the tweet before the location was changed. That might be one of those oops things right there. I mean, and you never know how that's going to affect it. Now, Miko texts with a screenshot from a recruiting service, and he's showing me that Trey Petty, the quarterback for Starkville High School, and when it shows his schools of interest, Liberty is one of them. Now, okay, am I looking at that? So wait a minute. So according to that, Miko, the kid from Starkville was committed to Illinois? Or is he committed to Illinois, or he did commit and then decommitted? I mean, they didn't change it. But schools of interest for Trey Petty, they list Illinois, Arkansas State, Coastal Carolina, Georgia State, Georgia Tech, Indiana, Jackson State, Liberty, and Memphis. So, yeah, he definitely could have been on a recruiting trip. Yeah, okay, look, J-Rock, I'll go ahead and read it. Okay, I'll read it. J-Rock texts the show and says, I don't want to start rumors, Matt, but I think I saw Coach Prime at Little Dewey's. Are we going to start seeing that? I mean, that stuff in the past, J-Rock, how stupid was that? Hey. Somebody said they saw Dan Marino at Old Waverly. Stupid. The only thing dumber than some of our coaching search stuff over the years, you're talking about State, and Ole Miss, and others, the only thing dumber is anytime Tennessee has had a coaching opening. Anytime Tennessee's been doing a coaching search, they top everything all time. They can laugh at us. We can't ever stop laughing at them. Yeah, it looks like Twitter is X. I cannot make the change. Are y'all having trouble with that? It's always a second guess. I always say Twitter first and then have to go back and edit it. Oh, X. Talking about the stupid coaching stuff. Gancakes on the Murray West live thread, he's watching on YouTube, said, I'll never forget how many times Billy Napier didn't actually visit Starkville. I know. I don't know. I hadn't heard it straight from the horse's mouth, but pretty good sources, and I've always heard that Napier State never even got to talk to him. It was never a thing of, hey, I appreciate the phone call. Yeah, good to talk to you. How you doing? Oh, I'm fine. No, I mean, like, not even that ever happened. There was like literally, he would not reciprocate any communication whatsoever, was what I understood about Napier regarding when State had openings. Robert with an interesting thing here on the Murray West live thread. He said, I hadn't heard anything about James Madison's coach for consideration, but I think Kirk Signetti would be a great coach. Your thoughts? Well, I'll tell you this. They're getting it done where he is. You know, beyond their record, I've not even seen them play. Beyond their record, I don't know anything about them or him, just to be totally honest. And I don't know. Do y'all feel this way, that when you start paying attention to coaching searches, okay, and who out there is a candidate for what job, and even more so than a candidate who's an applicant for certain jobs. When you start looking at it, I feel like we so often just easily, dare I say lazily, we just fall into this gap of here's what we do. So-and-so over there has got a winning team, therefore he can come here and have a winning team. And that guy over there has a losing team, therefore if he comes here, he will only ever be able to have losing teams. That's what we do. But that's not really the reality of any of it, as has been proven over and over and over and over again. I mean, there's got to be some other things to consider. Problem is, so much of it is PR. It's an entertainment business, so much of it is PR, right? And so you're winning the press conference is a priority. You want everybody to be really happy, and sure enough, I'll give you some money. Yeah, I'll come play for you. We hadn't even practiced yet, but I'm coming. And I like the vibe. And that's part of it. Okay, that plays, and like you say, that plays a factor also. But really, when you think about it, what I described is true. We all do that. We go, hey, that guy over there, he's undefeated at James Madison, which means he can go anywhere else and probably be undefeated. Do a really good job. Well, that's stupid. It just even sounds stupid when you say it, but that's kind of how we approach this stuff. By the same token, hey, Cliff Kingsbury didn't even win 10 games at Texas Tech with Patrick Mahomes. Therefore, he could never possibly ever coach a team to a winning record. Couldn't do it. Now, see how stupid that sounds? But a lot of it is that's how we approach it for some reason. Let's see. Should I read what Clay sent? Clay, are you serious? Or Clay texts the show and he says, Jimbo Fisher to Starkville.
Yeah, man, I'll tell you what, that dang old internet, man, you just go on there and point and click, get in there and talk about www.com, and you got that on there, man. You go click, 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 click. It's real easy.
Thanks, Coach. Thanks, Jimbo. Jimbo Boomhauer. The wealthiest redneck on the planet right now. Jimbo Boomhauer. State Grad 98 says, I also just read that we can only talk to agents right now, so the chances we talk to Chadwell in person are minimal. Okay. Louvier texts the show and says, that mentality, he's winning over there, so he's going to win if he comes here. Is the foundation of wisdom of Bo Bounds just saying? He says, yep, y'all go run, tell him I said that. And then he signed it. Go Saints. Who dat? Hey, Louvier, Jameis tried to pull one out Sunday. Just a little bit short, but he tried. Made it interesting. Y'all stick around.
Have you ever wished for one product that would clean and shine almost everything in your house? Here it is, Clean and Shine. Like magic, Clean and Shine leaves a nice shine on fine wood furniture, so you don't need furniture polish. It cleans and shines mirrors, so you don't need glass cleaner for mirrors. It cleans and shines refrigerators, like this kitchen product, even countertops, tile, and vinyl. Try new Clean and Shine, the foam that cleans and shines almost everything in your house.
Someday when people look at me, they'll say, there goes Roy Hobbs, the best there ever was.
TriStar Pictures presents Robert Redford in The Natural, the story of a father and a son.
You got a gift, Roy, but it's not enough.
Of love.
He means the world to me.
And desire.
I'm not waiting for true love to come along, Roy.
A champion.
A Roy Hobbs comes along once, maybe twice in everybody's lifetime.
And his destiny.
With or without the records, they'll remember you.
Best there is now, and best there ever will be.
I wouldn't bet against me.
I already have.
Robert Redford, Robert Duvall, Glenn Close, Kim Basinger, Wilford Brimley, Barbara Hershey, Robert Prosky, and Richard Farnsworth as Red. The Natural.
Do you know me? Would you believe I'm Bugs Bunny? I'm also the voice of many other cartoon characters. But in here, they don't care if I'm Elmer Fudd. So I carry an American Express card, the one card I need for travel and entertaining, for business and pleasure. Why, without this, the only way I'd get any attention is by saying, that's all, folks.
To apply for a card, call 800-528-8000.
The American Express card. Don't leave home without it.
The following is a presentation of TBS Sports. Exclusively on Superstation TBS. Superstation TBS presents the Atlanta Braves, America's team. Atlanta Braves baseball is brought to you by Budweiser. Beechwood aged for that distinctively clean, crisp taste that makes Budweiser the king of beers. This Bud's for you. By the official airline of the Atlanta Braves, Delta. We love to fly, and it shows. And by Eckerd Drugs, America's family drugstore.
If a man you've never met before suddenly gives you flowers, that's elation. The exciting new fragrance from Impulse.
Thursday, it's Cosby starting off a night of family fun. And leave it to Family Ties to keep the laughs coming.
Oh, no. What are we going to do? Everything's under control.
Then on Cheers, will Norm think on a friend to get a promotion?
Yes.
And the fun continues with Night Court.
I'm here to strip for Dan Fielding.
Thursday.
Oh, what a meal, oh.
Hamburger Helper Lasagna.
For your family.
Authentic Italian taste.
Hearty robusto. But not too spicy, eh?
Hamburger Helper Lasagna turns your plain hamburger into a delicious Italian meal with authentic Italian taste. Curly Italian noodles, rich tomato sauce, and a better blend of spices.
Hamburger Helper. Lasagna. Helper.
All right, we confirmed that Clay was just joking around when he texted the show and sent Jimbo Fisher to Starkville. And it seems like that's the second go-around with that, right, Clay? Like, didn't we years and years and years ago have one of these coaching searches at State where people were thinking that Jimbo was up for the job? Yeah, I knew you were joking. Appreciate that. Coaching candidates. Jimmy on the Murray West live thread said Fritz and Signetti, that would be the guys at Tulane and James Madison, respectively, are both in their 60s, and that might be a hang-up. What's wrong with that? 60's not old. Jimmy? You got something against old people? Jimmy, I'm saying that as one of them. That's what I feel like. Okay, because it's still a ways off, all right? But I'm way closer to 60 than I wanted. All right, I'm late 40s, okay? But the later you get in your 40s, the closer 60 starts to look in the windshield there. And I'm going, golly, that ain't old. 60's the new 50. Maybe. All right, over to the phone line, Divinity Equipment phone line. Adam hanging on line 1. What's up, Adam?
Happy Thanksgiving to you, Matt. I know
You
I
too.
ain't quite
You
here
too.
yet, but... Hey, my friend. How come nobody's talking about Steve Spurrier Jr. for this job? He's coached a long time. He's not a real big time name, but if you want to know the truth, that's probably who we should have hired last year after Michael H. died. You think there's a possibility we may see him?
I mean, I don't think so. It would be one of those.
It makes sense, doesn't it?
Well,
you know about it.
I tell you what would have made sense. I tell you what would have made sense is what you said on the back end of that. What would have made sense is if he was made the interim, okay, and maybe they won, and then he got the job, kind of like Zach did, where it's a small contract, but it's almost like a 1-year tryout deal. Okay, then, he's got a chance. But, as far as hiring him away, he's the offensive coordinator at Tulsa right now. And I would just say that that's the thing about him. Let's just be honest, Adam. I think a lot of Coach Spurrier, talking about Steve Jr., I think a lot of him. And he is a good football coach, and he's going to have a good career. The deal is, though, he was so loyal to Coach Mike Leach all those years that he never left Coach Leach to go be an offensive coordinator somewhere. He was always his receivers coach on the Leach staff. So if I'm looking at it right, I mean, if he's been an offensive coordinator, it's way off in the past somewhere. This is his first time, and it's just 1 year of it. So when you're talking about other coordinator types out there that when those names come up, like, for example, like a Levy, well, he's been a coordinator longer at multiple schools at this level. You see what I'm saying? So I'm not going to sit here and knock Steve Spurrier Jr., and I like him a lot too. And had they made him the interim last year about this time, I'd have been all for it. But I don't think his resume is where it's got to be in that marketplace to be an applicant for a head coaching job in the SEC. That's just what I think it is.
Well, I mean, the whole thing was Zach Arnett. If he would have taken, if this team right here would have been a dumpster fire last year and didn't return nobody or didn't return anybody, but this dude got a 9-win team from last year with pretty much the same roster except for a few. And then the league's not as good, and here it is. You're struggling to even score a point.
Yeah.
I mean, that's bad. And I don't understand why we didn't fire the OC with him. To me, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever, Matt.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
I mean,
well, and some of it some of it may just be numbers. Here, hey, Adam, you know what? I'm glad you brought that up. Hang on real quick. This came up earlier in the show, and I said I was going to address it, and then I smooth forgot to do it. Let me say this. A few days ago, in texting with friends, somebody was asking about, the decision. Do they do something now? Do they wait? Whatever. And my evaluation of it was, I think from an AD perspective, the athletics director, Adam, had to simplify this in his mind, I think. And you simplify it, I would think this way right here. If we've got 2 games left, and whether we make a change now or wait until after the year is strictly going to be based on this criteria. Which one of those decisions will help this team to play harder in the last 2 games? If we make a change now and do an interim thing, does that inject some juice and energy on our team for these last 2 games? Or do we have more energy and juice by hanging on and waiting and not firing him now? That's strictly what the decision was based on. That's what I believe the timing. The decision was already made to move on, period, end of story. Doing it with 2 games left was strictly, I think, a move to go ahead, let's get it out there, and we do the interim thing with Greg Knox, and maybe, just maybe, with 2 games left against 2 teams from our state, it injects a little life into our team, because you could see coming out of A&M the other night, it was lifeless. Does that make sense at all?
It does. It does. I mean, but whoever we get, here's the only thing, the collective, what I'm worried about, IL money. Because, somebody's going to, if you go to interview, that's going to be one of the first questions they ask. You got how much money, IL money do I have to play with?
Well, that's true. Yeah. That's true.
And that's the only thing that scares me. But, hey, Matt, happy Thanksgiving, man. You and your family have a great one.
Yep, you too. Appreciate it. Thank you. Daggum, Beaver, you and I, we hadn't even talked about next week. What are we going to do? Beaver, does your family have a humongous, Thanksgiving get-together, throwdown, food all day, turkey, all that stuff?
No, it's just me and my parents, because the family we were closest with, aunt, uncle, and 4 cousins, they live in Texas, and then 2 more cousins. They live out in California. So we don't have a family around here much, so it's just us. It's just us at Thanksgiving every year. And it's funny you asked this because last night, Little C asked me, she says, hey, is Thanksgiving next week or the week after? She couldn't remember. And to be completely honest with you, I told her, oh, it's the week after next.
Mm-hmm.
But I wasn't just fibbing. Last night, I lost total track of my days. I really thought that Thanksgiving is in 2 weeks. We are going to be in December, almost December in 2 weeks.
Yeah, it sort of snuck up on us, didn't it?
It did.
I'm telling you, it is really sneaking up on us. Well, yeah. So I don't know what we got to do. See, here's my thing, Beaver. It's like I had a period of time in radio when I was first kind of getting started in the talk radio thing where when we would have those Thursday night egg bowls, my thought was, well, you kind of need to do a show the following day because you had the game the night before and people are going to want to talk about it. But what I ran into was everybody's off on that Friday after Thanksgiving. Like nobody's doing anything but sitting around at home, deer hunting, eating leftover turkey, watching the Friday games. They're not even in their cars driving around. It's a little bit of a different deal. So I don't know. We can talk about that later, as opposed to what I'm doing right now, which is the very unprofessional on-the-air live production meeting. Strongly discouraged by radio professionals everywhere. Wes from Carthage texts the show on the Country Pleasing text line, says, Cliff Kingsbury recruited and coached Mahomes, Kyler Murray, Baker Mayfield, Case Keenum, Manziel, head coaching experience in the NFL and Texas Tech. What do you think? Yeah. Like I said earlier, I mean, that's if there's any interest there and you haven't already decided and come to an agreement with somebody, if there's interest there, it's someone that you have to talk to. Been a head coach at both levels and, offensively can do things a little different, can be a little outside the box offensively. I feel like State's going to need that. That's what I feel like. And it doesn't have to be someone who's labeled or pigeonholed as this kind of offense or that kind of offense, but just somebody who maybe has a history of figuring out a way to be a little creative there. But, it's easy to stand here and talk in big, broad terms. All right. What a show. We had a little location services learning session on the show today. Even worked in a happy Thanksgiving for next week. Man, what a show. All the comments, all the people watching, all the texts. We were loaded down today. Thank y'all so much. All right. Back at it again tomorrow. Same time, same place. For Beaver, I'm Matt. All of us here on the show in the Bureau, the Farm Bureau Insurance Studio. Go with the home team. See y'all tomorrow.